It is predicted that Kamala Harris will die in a plane crash due to a bird strike in St. Louis on December 31st, 2022, and that her plane will be brought down by turbulence and then a bird strike as she is flying over St. Louis. The date that this video is posted proves that this prediction is being made ahead of time, as does this time-stamped email and forensic notes PDF document. If you are skeptical for some reason, please email me and I will forward these to you. I should add that not only is it very interesting part 2, but it's also very important. This is a truly amazing video filled with amazing, profound information, and it will be, I believe, the only video that will be explaining how it is known the manner in which Kamala Harris will die in a plane crash, which is predicted that it will be brought down by turbulence on her way home from Los Angeles to Washington, D.C. She will be brought down by turbulence into St. Louis and then a bird strike. Make sure you listen to this entire video. It is so amazing. It's one of the most amazing videos on this channel for sure. All right, this video was originally produced on December 24th, and God was pointing to this date, December 26th. And on December 26th, we received prophetic signs related to the death of Kamala Harris that confirmed the analysis and indicated adding 5 more days, including the football game with the coach named Jeff Saturday, and that confirmed also adding 5 days because the 5 days later is on a Saturday. The 31st, the date it is predicted that Kamala Harris will die in a plane crash, will be on the 31st, and it is a Saturday, and that's why the prophetic significance and the signs involving this coach for the Indianapolis Colts on December 26th, the nationally televised Monday Night Football game. That game was against the Los Angeles Chargers. Chargers is lightning symbolism. Jesus said he saw Satan falling like lightning from heaven. And this is what will be symbolized when Kamala Harris will fall from the sky and then be replaced with the Antichrist. Los Angeles hints at fallen angels. And this is also symbolism for the symbolic beginning of the end times that is described in Revelation chapter 12, when Satan, the dragon, and his angels are thrown down from heaven to earth, which will also be symbolized when Kamala Harris will fall from the sky in a plane crash. So that's why Los Angeles and the name of the football team, Chargers. But there is so much more to be said about this, and I've already explained it. It's actually a 40-minute explanation. It's so deep and profound and amazing. And so I've already explained it, and that's explained in the Revelation chapter 12, Franco Harris prophecy video on this channel, which is another absolute must-watch video. And so I won't explain it again here, although it would be worthy of putting into this video because, as we will be talking about, we're talking about Los Angeles and the signs on December 18th, which included another game involving the Los Angeles Chargers. So that's why that's relevant too. The sign that occurred on the 26th was all about the 5 turnovers in the game, and this was symbolism for the turning over of the presidency from Joe Biden to Michelle Obama to Barack Obama. And there's much more to that, the significance of 5 and the 5 turnovers, which is explained in the other video, but that's also an indication or an indicator for adding the 5 days to get the Saturday on the 31st. So going forward, when you hear me mention the 26th as being the date that I think she will crash in a plane, that's because God was pointing to the 26th with prophetic signs that were related to the death of Kamala Harris in a plane crash. And so I was going with it, but not to be confused. And it's really inconsequential in this video anyway. I just thought I would add this at the beginning just so that you know what happened on the 26th. One other thing is that I made a part 2 of this video, and part 2 is exponentially even more interesting than part 1. But part 1 is foundational, so you can't skip part 1. But also make sure you watch part 2. There's some amazing things, some insights that came after. It just keeps coming, right? But the insights that came after the production of this first part just makes everything exponentially more interesting. Trust me, you need to watch part 2 as well, but I don't recommend skipping part 1. All right, today is the 24th of December. It is 2 days before December 26th, and I'm looking forward to the video that I'm producing right here in order to explain why I think it is that Kamala Harris will die in a plane crash due to a bird strike in St. Louis on December 26th. And that's been stated in many other videos that have made this prediction. But this particular video is going to talk about the new recent discoveries through the signs that occurred on December 18th that confirm the manner and method in which her plane will crash on the 26th. It is absolutely amazing, and it will point to Isaiah chapter 31 in the Bible. It will parallel Isaiah chapter 31, which talks or describes the Antichrist's defeat at the second coming of Lord Jesus Christ. Now, to get into things here, I'm just going to freestyle because there is no time left. And all I have right now are the notes that I emailed to friends as the thoughts and discoveries came. And so I'm just going to go through them without a plan here. And hopefully something amazing will come together. But let's just start with a description of what is going on. It has been learned that, and this came after the discovery of the method in which she will crash. Let's just talk about that. Her plane will be flying over St. Louis, not destined for St. Louis. It will be flying over St. Louis. And the Lord will bring her plane down through turbulence. Something is going to happen in the air, something involving turbulence at altitude, which will cause the pilots to want to land in St. Louis. As she will come in for a landing in St. Louis or near St. Louis or something, I take that back. The Lord has provided signs that make it, I think, clear that it will be at the time that she's coming into for a landing, right near the I-70 highway. Okay, so and at that time, when she comes in for a landing, her plane will suffer a bird strike to her engine, which will cause her plane to crash. In a fiery crash, there will be an explosion of the engine, and she will die in a fiery explosion in St. Louis due to a bird strike, but her plane will first be brought down because of turbulence. This is absolutely amazing, and as I will explain in this video, it is paralleling Isaiah chapter 31. Now, it was after this knowledge that it occurred to me to check online if it were even possible. I didn't know it was possible until I just checked to see if it was possible even to find out what the flight path is from Los Angeles to Washington, D.C. Because after all of this knowledge, because it was learned that she would crash on December 26th, many days ago. And after that knowledge, it occurred to me, well, you know what? That's the day after Christmas. Could it be that she will crash on her way home from Los Angeles? Because her hometown is Los Angeles, and so it occurred to me that maybe she will be going back to Los Angeles for Christmas. It makes a lot of sense. And then it occurred to me that this was extremely beautiful because it is more amazing than simply she has a political event to attend in St. Louis and then she crashes. What this also, one thing that it does is it parallels the Great American Eclipse, judgment warning sign. Arguably the biggest prophetic warning sign after 9/11, arguably. This was the eclipse that traversed over America in August of 2017, and the path of totality, the first time, by the way, an eclipse went over America and didn't go over any other country since 1776, the year that America was born, coincidentally. This eclipse went from coast to coast. Excuse me. So her plane will be going from coast to coast, which will be symbolism for the eclipse. Now, I had learned that her plane would crash in St. Louis in mid-October. And that was because it started coming to me. It started dawning on me why the symbolic reason for St. Louis. And that's because, first and foremost, it symbolizes the eclipse. And so that's why her flight path from LA to Washington, D.C., if I didn't mention this yet, it goes directly over St. Louis. It's absolutely astounding. And again, this was only learned, I think it was yesterday that I checked for the flight path information. And I had learned in mid-October that her flight would crash in St. Louis. I didn't know that a flight path from Los Angeles to Washington, D.C. goes directly over St. Louis. So this is getting me, obviously, you can tell, a little bit excited here because it's confirmation for the prediction that she will crash on December 26th, because it makes sense that she would be flying home from Los Angeles after Christmas. Okay, and again, it'll symbolize the eclipse. So just briefly, it's mentioned and explained in other videos, but I'll just say just briefly again, St. Louis symbolizes the eclipse because the path of totality of the eclipse went over St. Louis. It was the biggest city that it went over. And it peaked right near St. Louis. And the peak of the eclipse is extremely prophetic for many reasons. One, it peaked at 1:17 p.m., which hinted at the 117th Congress, which will be during the time that Kamala Harris will die in a plane crash, and then be replaced by Michelle Obama in the 117th Congress, by the 117th Congress. The peak lasted for exactly 160 seconds, and that hints at 4 times 40, which hints at 4 times 4 and the 44th president, who will become president again as a result of Kamala Harris's plane crash, which, by the way, will symbolize when Jesus said he saw Satan falling like lightning from heaven. Kamala Harris's fall from the sky in a plane crash, and then her replacement with the Antichrist will symbolize Luke 10:18. And Barack Obama's name in Hebrew means lightning from heaven. Barack means lightning. Obama means high place, which in the Bible is a metaphor for heaven. For example, it is said that Lucifer fell from the high place, a metaphor for heaven. And the language that Jesus would have spoken, Aramaic, the word for from is O. So Barack Obama means lightning from heaven. And so that's the eclipse right there. There's more prophetic timing to the eclipse as well. And anyway, let's move on. The eclipse also peaked over an area of the country nicknamed Little Egypt, which is just east of St. Louis. It's in between St. Louis and Nashville, the other city that God uses to symbolize the eclipse. These two cities they bookend, if you will, the area of the country nicknamed Little Egypt. The next American eclipse, the one that will traverse from south to north in 2024, will cross over the path of the one in 2017 exactly where it peaked, including over a city named Cairo, Illinois. In the Bible, Pharaoh, the king of Egypt, is symbolism for the Antichrist. And Pharaoh persecuted the Jews in Egypt for 400 years, and we are at the 400-year mark of the Mayflower, which isn't an accident. You need to watch the St. Louis video. This is one of the most important Kamala Harris videos, and obviously, therefore, one of the most important videos on this channel, which explains more why St. Louis. It's so profound. But the eclipse, the founding of the nation by the Mayflower, the Pilgrims believed that their crossing of the Atlantic was symbolic of the Jews crossing the Jordan River into the Promised Land. And the Pilgrims were also escaping religious and political persecution, just like the Hebrews were. But 400 biblical years, and a biblical or a prophetic year is made up of 12 30-month years, is actually 144,000 days. 144,000 is an extremely prophetic number in the Bible, in the book of Revelation. And if you add that number of days, 400 prophetic years, you get the eclipse in 2015, which the path of totality of which marked out an uncanny dissection between the old and the new world, which pointed to the Pilgrim's Crossing. And so anyway, the reason why the Antichrist is about to come onto the scene is because we have passed 400 years, and Pharaoh, the Antichrist, or Pharaoh, which is symbolism for the Antichrist, persecuted the Hebrews for 400 years. Anyway, this is why the significance of Little Egypt, the area of the country nicknamed Little Egypt, where the eclipse peaked and crossed over. So this is all reason for why, St. Louis. And this chapter that describes what I'm talking about, this parallel with this turbulence and then a bird strike, is Isaiah chapter 31. And Isaiah chapter 31 begins with, "Woe to those who go down to Egypt and rely on horses." Right after, like the first big thing Barack Obama did after becoming president, was he went down to Egypt to deliver his famous Cairo, Egypt speech in order to tell the Muslim world that America is no longer a Christian nation, which was extremely antichrist. And the Egyptians and the media, the Egyptians were calling him the new King Tut of the world, and the media, CNN, for example, and the mainstream media was comparing Barack Obama to King Tut. And the famous Egyptologist, while giving him a tour, said that he looked like King Tut and pointed to a hieroglyph on the wall that was the image of King Tut, and pointed to the big ears of King Tut in the hieroglyph and said that Barack Obama with his big ears was looking like King Tut. It's absolutely amazing. Anyway, rely on horses. Well, that's why God has used the Triple Crown winner American Pharaoh to also point to Barack Obama. But this is why the area of the country nicknamed Little Egypt, and why the two eclipses will pass over each other, the two paths cross each other right over Cairo, Egypt, and the area of the country nicknamed Little Egypt. It's to point to all of this. And also the mark of the Antichrist, because the mark of the Antichrist, the inverse of it, would have been the Tav mark described in Ezekiel chapter 9, which a Tav in ancient Hebrew, around the time that the Bible was written, for example, would have been an X. And an X is what is being made out, engendered with the two paths of the eclipses crossing each other 7 years apart in the Bible prophecy. 7 years is symbolism for the end times, and on and on. So this is, and well, let's see one more thing. Barack Obama, as a senator, went down to Cairo, Illinois, as a senator, a U.S. senator, to deliver a speech. So he delivered a speech in Cairo, Egypt, and Cairo, Illinois. And by the way, that speech he did in Cairo, Egypt was exactly 3,000 days before the eclipse that peaked over the area of the country nicknamed Little Egypt. And 3,000 is a very prophetic number in the Bible. It symbolizes judgment. 3,000 perished in their rebellion against God at Mount Sinai. It says that about 3,000, which is why the death toll from 9/11 was 2,996. It was, quote, about 3,000, unquote, from the Bible. And so that's why 3,000 days exactly from Barack Obama's speech to the eclipse, both Egypt symbolism. Okay, now the prophetic flooding that occurred in St. Louis on July 26th this year, which was a date that was predicted ahead of time to be very, very important. That day is exactly 600 plus 600 plus 600 days after the eclipse. And 600 is, of course, symbolism for, well, not of course, I mean, many people listening might not know this. 600 is symbolism for the flood, because at the time of the flood, it is recorded that Noah was 600 years old. And 600 plus 600 plus 600 is hinting at 666, which is symbolism for the Antichrist in Bible prophecy. All right, now let's see. So we were talking about Isaiah chapter 31, which begins with, "Woe to those who go down to Egypt." And that's what's being symbolized with St. Louis. I think I've made the case for that now. And so that's why the connection to Isaiah chapter 31. Now I'm just going to read something from Isaiah chapter 31 here. "For the Lord For thus the Lord said to me, quote, as a lion or a young lion growls over his prey, and when a band of shepherds is called out against him, he is not terrified by their shouting or daunted at their noise. So the Lord of hosts will come down to fight on Mount Zion on its hill. Like birds hovering, so the Lord of hosts will protect Jerusalem. He will protect and deliver it. He will spare and rescue it. This is talking about the regathering of Jews to Israel and the prophetic signs that occurred in conjunction with that prophetic regathering. And Jonathan Cahn is the one that brought this to light when he was talking about his book, The Oracle. For example, General Allenby of the British Army, when he first came into Jerusalem after defeating the Ottoman Turks, he had said that the only way to win that war would be to have airplanes. And that greatly assisted their victory because they could see their enemy from the sky. And at the time that all of this was happening, and when Allenby walked into the old city through the walls, through the gates, because he didn't ride on a horse, because he was a very, very religious Christian and believed that he was unworthy to do so because that's fitting for the King of Kings, Lord Jesus Christ. So, but the planes were hovering, and that was symbolism for the birds in the air hovering. That's in Isaiah chapter 31 here. In 1967, in the restoration of Israel of the city, when the Jews took the Temple Mount and East Jerusalem from the Jordanians, that was captured with lion symbolism. The leader of the Israeli army at that time, his last name is Lion. I forget. If you want to know more details, I recommend looking up Jonathan Cahn and the book The Oracle. And on the Mount of Olives, which is where Jesus will come from when he returns, the commander of the paramilitary group was named Lion, and the guy that devised the plan, or I think the guy that made the plan to take the Temple Mount, his name was Lion, and the commander's name was Young Lion. And they went through the Lion's Gate, and those were the first two men that went through the Lion's Gate, and also the first two men to go onto the Temple Mount on June 7th, 1967, the day that the Jews took back the Temple Mount for the first time in 19 centuries, had self-rule. And so that's astounding, and that's what's also in this chapter here, a lion and a young lion. Okay, so I believe that the turbulence that will bring Kamala Harris's plane down is symbolism for a lion's roar. A lion's roar will be vibrations and turbulence, if you will, or turbulence is vibrations. The plane will be vibrated in the air. This is a lion's roar, and it will be symbolism for a lion's roar. The Lord's lion's roar will bring down her plane, and then it will be struck by a bird, which is paralleling Isaiah chapter 31, which talks about the lion and the young lion growling, and then talks about the birds hovering. In this chapter, in this paragraph, that's about the return of Lord Jesus Christ. And it is the death of Kamala Harris, the big event that will be symbolism for the beginning of the tribulation. It will be symbolism for example, Revelation chapter 12, when it's describing the archangel Michael that throws Satan and his angels, the dragon and his angels, down from heaven to earth at the beginning of the 1,260 days, which is symbolism for the end times. And the end times is all about the return of Lord Jesus Christ. And that's why Kamala Harris's plane will be brought down with turbulence and then a bird strike. It will be parallel to Isaiah chapter 31, and it will be brought down in the country that is part of the country that is symbolism for Egypt and the Antichrist, and that's why it'll be in St. Louis. Now, the signs on December 18th confirm this. So I'm just going to go through my notes like I said I would, And it is going to be random, and it's going to be jumbled up, and it's not going to be in a particular order, and there's not much I can do about it because I'm out of time. Don't have time to make a nice ordered video. But let's just start with the first thing in my notes. This was the day that the plane on its way from Phoenix to Hawaii encountered severe turbulence as it was coming into Hawaii. Now, the reason why it's from Arizona is because it's the 48th state. And as a result of Kamala Harris's plane crash, which we now know which will be the result of turbulence, the 48th president will become the president again. It's a flight to Hawaii because the 48th president grew up in Hawaii. He is from Hawaii. Also, Hawaii is the 50th state. And the number 50 and 50th is extremely prophetic in the Bible, and it is symbolism for the Lord's return. It's the Jubilee, for example. The Jubilee year is symbolism for the Lord's return, and the restoration of Israel, for example, the whole book of the Oracle, Jonathan Cahn's book, the subtitle is The Jubilee and Mysteries. It's all surrounding this mystery of this 50-year cycle, for example. So that's the reason for the 50th state. It's why America has 50 states, for that matter, and also why the Antichrist is from the 50th state. Okay, and why this plane was going from the 48th state to the 50th state. Now, 36 people were injured. The number 36 is symbolism for 666, which is symbolism for the Antichrist in Bible prophecy. 36 is 6 times 6. It is also 2 times 18, and 18 is 6 plus 6 plus 6. Also, the 36th triangular number, which in a triangle of numbers, the last number in the 36th row is 666, and 1 plus 2 plus 3 plus 4 all the way up to 36 equals 666. Now, out of the 36 people that were injured, 20 were taken to the emergency room, 11 were in serious condition, and 9 were in stable condition. That is 9/11 symbolism. The other big day, if you will, for plane crashes. The big day for plane crashes, 9/11. And also both numbers symbolize judgment. The number 9 is the most important number in God's big picture of signs, which is only being explained on this channel. And I don't really mean that literally. I mean like the big picture, obviously. Anyway, the number 9 is the most important number, and he pairs the number 9 with other numbers together to confirm the signs and connections, and he pairs it with the number 11, but the number 11 in the Bible appears in context of the execution of God's judgment. So that's why 9/11. And, so also 11 divided by 9 is 188, or 1.88, and that is... The 188th word is woe, exclamation mark, used in context of extreme judgment from God. So, and also 9/11, by the way, was exactly 188 years after the only other time that a foreign enemy attacked Washington, D.C., which is when the British landed at Washington's Mount Vernon estate, and then proceeded to burn down the White House and the Capitol building before being chased out of Washington, D.C. by a hurricane. And so, okay, moving on. The next sign we have here on December 18th was this prophetic sign in the football game. God uses sports big time. I believe the reason why the Lord had my father be the father who he was is because he was a big sports fan, and so I was raised as a sports fan as well. And that's absolutely required to understand God's big picture of science. It's absolutely a necessity that one be knowledgeable about sports, and at least mildly at this age, I'm not interested as I was as a kid, but it allows me to be able to understand and now look with interest at sports and God's sports science. Anyway, the biggest, by far, the most important sports team are the New England Patriots, which is explained in other videos. But the New England Patriots played the Las Vegas Raiders on this day. Las Vegas is Sin City, And the man of sin is a name for the Antichrist in Bible prophecy. Okay, so they played a prophetic game with each other. Now, I said this video was going to be jumbled. So I'm just looking at my notes. I'm just going to say a couple more things here before moving on to that prophetic sign. 12/18, December 18th was 8,888 days after the big day that Mark McGuire and Sammy Sosa were in a game playing each other in 1998. The big home run chase year, and extremely prophetic. They were chasing 62 home runs to beat Roger Maris's home run record of 61 home runs, the home run king, who batted 61 home runs in the year 1961. And then Aaron Judge, that's his name, Judge, who wears number 99. 9 symbolizes judgment for the New York Yankees, beat it this year, 61 years later, after Maris hit 61 in 1961. This is because the Antichrist was born in 1961 and will become the president again, and the Antichrist at the age of 61. And the 61 is the 18th prime number, and 18 is 6 plus 6 plus 6, which is symbolism for the Antichrist. Anyway, they played each other, and the only day that Sammy Sosa was ahead in the race, briefly, was during this game for just a few innings, when he hit his 48th home run. And then later in the game, Mark McGuire, I think he hit 2 home runs that game and hit his 48th home run and then hit his 49th home run. Kamala Harris is the 49th vice president. But the reason for the 48th home runs is because the Antichrist is the 48th president, Barack Obama, who will be the president. And that's why this connection, and 8,888 days is 4/8, which hints at the number 48. It's absolutely astounding. I could talk to you for an hour about the signs that occurred within that game. I took notes. I watched the whole game. It's absolutely amazing, and the connections from that. But this is the big one, and it was connecting to December 18th, which is one reason why I knew December 18th would be the big day for something very big, which it was. December 18th was also 1,800 days after the Hawaii false missile alert. There was the false missile alert that was sent out with a text message that everyone in Hawaii received and panicked. I think it wasn't for about a half hour until it was announced that it was just a false alarm. So people were panicking for a half hour there in Hawaii that a missile was on its way. Obviously, they would be thinking that it would be coming from North Korea. But anyway, 1,800 days, which again is 600 plus 600 plus 600 days exactly, which again is symbolism for the Antichrist, as I explained a minute ago, from the Hawaii false missile alert was the day that this turbulent, that the plane encountered turbulences right as it was coming into Honolulu in Hawaii and suffered the severe injuries. Okay, so that's astounding as well. And that was known ahead of time. I knew that connection ahead of time before the plane had the turbulence on its way to Hawaii. Also, this day was exactly 40 weeks. 40 weeks is the average human gestation period, according to the medical profession. And that's why God uses it in his signs, because when asked for the signs to look for of his return, Jesus replied with the metaphor of birth pains. And so 40 weeks is symbolism for the end times birth pains, which is why 40 weeks connections. December 18th was exactly 40 weeks after March 13th, the day that Tom Brady announced that he would return for a 23rd season. He was 44 years old. God pairs 23 and 44 together to point to the 44th president, the basketball president that wore jersey number 23 when he played basketball in high school in Hawaii. That, in turn, that day was exactly 40 days after he announced that he was retiring. Tom Brady announced that he would retire. 40 days later, he announced that he wasn't going to retire. And then 40 weeks later after that was this 12/18 day, which is pointing to the Antichrist. And Tom Brady is the GOAT, greatest of all time. And in the Bible, a goat is symbolism for the Antichrist. On the same day that Brady announced he would return in the fall for a 23rd season, the 44-year-old was the day that the 44th president announced in a tweet, because Tom Brady's announcement was a tweet. The 44th president announced in a tweet that he would that he had COVID, and this was 23 days before he returned to the White House for the first time since he left for the 9th anniversary of his Barack Obama Obamacare. More to be said about that, but I think I'm going to leave that out for this video. No, I can't. I'm not going to leave it out for this video. What I'm going to do right now is tell you that if you are watching this on YouTube, you need to go over to the other channel. This video will now stop here, and the rest of this video will be on the other channel so that we can talk more freely about things. Some social media sites have a maximum length for videos that can be posted, and so I need to cut this video into 2 parts. Click on the link to watch the remainder of this video. You can also find this link in the description box below this video. Make sure you watch the remainder of this extremely important video that is posted on a different channel than the one you are watching now. The link to the rest of this video is in the description box below this video. Hopefully you at least found this introduction video to be interesting, and if so, please leave a like and upvote the video, and please consider sharing the video.